Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for my new best friend, Vlade Divac. Vlade, welcome to Springfield.
Thank you.
Oh, here, I think this one might have gone dead, so we are going to share the mic. You know, it's funny, one of the great privileges that I have is that I get to be the guy who stands with Hall of Famers the first time they walk into Springfield and look up. Can you just, before we get into your amazing career, can you just reflect on what that moment was like for you, walking in, seeing all the people here to see you, and looking up at the faces of so many of these people who you played with, but also so many of these incredible greats that have laid the groundwork?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for to invite me here today. I got goosebumps. You know, growing up in a small city back in Europe and playing basketball, I grew up watching, you know, legendary players like Pete Maravich, and first picture that I saw walking in, it was a Pete. It's just, I got goosebumps coming here.
Well, fans of a certain age think that all 7-footers play the way that they do now, with the mid-range jumper, playmaking. Vlade, you were a trailblazer. You were one of the first guys to say that it was not only okay, but exciting for a big man to face up to the hoop and hit one of those mid-range J's. When did that development in your game start to happen, and how? Who was the one that told you that was all right?
Well, I was excited. Actually, I was lucky to have a coach who gave me a lot of freedom to do that. And he's one of the members here, Hall of Famer, Krešimir Ćosić. He played back in Yugoslavia, and he was a national team coach. He gave me a freedom to be a big man point guard and somebody that can use all the skills in basketball.
Your career, when I think about your career arc, and when many of us on this side of the ocean started to become aware of Vlade Divac, that incredible game of yours, it was with an incredible group of your friends, guys who, many of them are here above us right now, guys like Dino Raja, who was enshrined last year, Drazen Petrovic, who was enshrined 15 years ago, Tony Kukoc, who's not here yet. I'm curious. Now, we all learned about it then, and of course in that amazing 30 for 30 that really covered your story. If you haven't seen it, Once Brothers is one of the great basketball documentaries of our lifetime. But all these years later, what's the one thing about those guys and that team that you wish people talked about more?
Well, the friendship we had, you know, since we were 14, 15 years old, we spent so much time together in the training camps and the games around the world. And like I mentioned, the coach who gave me a lot of freedom, and he's a member of the Hall of Fame. You mentioned two of my teammates, and basically the entire team. I'm sure one day we're going to be all members of this hall, and that's excitement that we brought, not just for our the country, but entire Europe. And like you mentioned in the introduction, we were the trailblazers of the international players being a member of the NBA league now. We have now 30% of the league international, so it's amazing. It's
incredible, and it's neat because we'll talk a little bit about your Sacramento Kings and about how they're really living that mission in a big way now. It is the world's game, you know, this Hall of Fame that we're sitting in right now. And a lot of people look back to the American Dream Team, Team USA, as the one that spread the game and made it popular overseas. But y'all were there 4 years before the Dream Team.
Well, I don't know how much people realize, but the reason why they made the Dream Team '92, yes, it was we beat USA before many times, so they had to, you know, bring the best USA basketball.
You were too good.
I guess so.
Vlade, after the '88 Olympics, you guys take silver. You decide to enter the NBA draft, and it wasn't just you, it was a couple of guys from that team. Talk to me and us, if you will, about your decision to make that leap to the largest stage in the world.
Well, you know, I was 21 years old, and I always try to be with the best because I felt like, you know, the reason why I had such a successful career is that my teammates were so good. They made me a better player. So in the point when I was 21, I was one of the best European players. I realized I had to go to the next stage, and that's the NBA. And luckily, I ended up with the Lakers, with the Magic, Worthy, AC Green, Byron Scott, players that made me a better player.
And it's incredible, too, because so much of your story involves not just the hoop, and we'll talk about the Lakers and what that meant to be not only in the NBA, but in the most glamorous market in the NBA as well, but your stardom took off too. I think about, I told you, I just showed my children this morning the Schick ad people knew your name right away. Was that difficult for a 21-year-old Vlade Divac to come to LA and immediately be a superstar?
I think it's easier. Obviously, it's LA, it's a Hollywood, and but my personality, I guess, helped a lot. I was a likable person. When you mentioned about my name, I think a lot of credit for people knowing to say my name exactly is a Chick Hearn, a famous, you know, TV announcer for the Lakers. So I would say it was easier because I was in LA, but I'm definitely sure that my personality helped a lot.
And you mentioned a lot of those guys who were on that team, not just Magic and Worthy, but up and down that roster, Kareem. You were learning not just about how to be a professional in America, but also about American culture.
I have to say, you know, when I came in '89, I didn't speak English. I don't speak English very well right now, but in '89 I didn't speak at all. So it was definitely a challenge for me, learning language, different culture, different style of the game, because, you know, playing in Europe and in NBA was different style of basketball.
What was the hardest in terms of the on-court stuff? Because we had yet to really graduate to centers doing what you were doing. And I remember a lot of the talk around the league was that it was going to be hard for Vlade Divac to fit in because he didn't look and act like most of the fives in the league. And so what was the hardest adjustment for you?
Being more physical, you know, the game was much faster than European. But, you know, obviously, again, a lot of credit to my teammates and Coach Pat Riley, who pushed me to become an NBA player. And first couple of years was very difficult, but then, you know, you got very comfortable, you know, after a couple of years. And
your run with the Lakers is legendary. I mean, you play on some of those great late 80s, early 90s teams. But then on draft night in 1996, the Lakers, now you're a veteran in the league, but the Lakers make a deal. They trade Vlade Divac for the draft rights to some kid out of Lower Merion High School. Kobe Bryant, I think is his name. And this Kobe guy is pretty good. But talk to me about how veteran Vlade Divac learns about that trade and then reacts to not just leaving LA, but to going from LA to Charlotte.
Well, it was a very difficult period of my career. Obviously, it happens first time that it didn't go the way I want.
Yeah.
And I really was thinking to retire because basketball was my life, and I always play basketball because I love it.
Yeah.
I love the game. And just imagining, you know, that I have to go somewhere because somebody told me I have to go there and play basketball,
Yeah.
it didn't seem to fit in my perception of why I'm playing basketball. So I told them, you know, I'm just gonna retire. And obviously, my wife pushed me to keep playing. And I end up in Charlotte. You know, I have to say my beautiful 2 years of my career happens to be in Charlotte. And I really enjoyed there.
Before we talk about Charlotte, I want to let you know that your chance is coming up. Your chance to ask Vlade Divac will be coming up. I have 5 more questions for him, and then I'm going to ask for volunteers from the crowd, people who might want to ask Hoop Hall class of 2019. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Hoop Hall class of 2019's Vlade Divac a question. So be thinking about stuff you wish I was asking, and when I ask for a volunteer, put your hands in the air. My friends of the Hoop Hall staff will put you in a line to my right, your left. You get to Charlotte, and you mention about how those years were so pivotal, and I think about those mid-90s Charlotte Hornets teams and the personalities, the J.R. Reeds, Glenn Rice, Muggsy Bogues, Vlade Divac, Del Curry. I think he had a kid somewhere along the lines, didn't he?
Yeah, some kid came, many times after practice, taking those threes, and he was pretty good then too.
Do you remember Steph?
Oh, of course.
Do you really?
Steph and Seth also.
Yeah.
They're coming from the great family, and they'll definitely raise them right way. So I'm so happy for them.
And you also have Anthony Mason on that team, and so I think about just the range of personalities on that Charlotte Hornets team. Can you talk about what makes those teams so special in your mind?
I think the chemistry in the locker room, B.J. Armstrong was there too also. We had a great coach, Dave Collins, another Hall of Famer, who kind of put the team together. And both years that I was there, we won 50-plus games, and made it to playoffs. Charlotte is, entire North Carolina is just basketball state.
Yeah.
They really love their Hornets, and like I said, I spent a beautiful 2 years there.
And then you make it to, believe it or not, you make it to Sacramento, where you get to a place and you have an even bigger impact, this huge impact in LA, this major impact in Charlotte, and yet you get to Sacramento, one of the last stops of your career, and it strikes me when I look back at all those tapes, the other bigs on that team, Chris Webber, you have Hito and Peja. You finally get to a team where all the big dudes play like Vlade Divac.
I think it's a lot of credit again to Coach Rick Adelman, who and Pete Carrillo, the Princeton coach, who actually introduced Princeton offense to the NBA, and it really fit very well in a game that I play. The ball goes through the big guy, and me and Chris, did a great job, finding those shooters.
Yeah.
And we had really fun 6 years in Sacramento.
It's incredible that it was 6 years when you were thinking of retiring 10 years before that, right?
Unbelievable. I think, Byron Scott mentioned, one time, if you want somebody to be hooked on basketball, you just bring them to the Sacramento.
Yeah.
The way we play, just a lot of fun.
And now in 2015, you accept a front office role with Sacramento, which tells me that in all the places you felt at home, Sacramento for you was a place that you really wanted to lay roots. And so you accept that job with Sacramento when likely you had opportunities elsewhere. What was it about Sacramento that felt like home?
Again, I think, the fan base, the market that really loves basketball. I think basketball is, we all know it's one of the different sports around the world, but basketball is the game that, like you mentioned, it's a global game.
Yeah.
and brings people together. And, I have friends all over the world just because being part of basketball. And Sacramento is a community that really loves basketball and supporting the Kings. And I felt like, I was very close to win the championship as a player there. And this is my second chance to do it as a GM. So we'll see where I'm going to end up.
So just between you and me, no one's listening, don't worry. What's the hardest part of being a general manager? You're a game-changing player. Now, not only are you removed from playing, you're not even on the sidelines telling people how to play. You're just the chess master. Is that the hardest part of being a general manager?
I think it is, but I really enjoy my job, and I really, to be a GM, the only time it will say if you're good or not.
Yeah.
And you can, do something today and expect tomorrow to see the results.
Right,
It has to be a few years. And I feel very confident that what we're building in Sacramento right now, it's going to be a special time, for Sacramento community in a few years down the road.
Do you have a question for Vlade Divac? If so, put your hand in the air right now and leave it there. One of my great Hoop Hall staff friends will come around and select a handful of you and put you to the line on our right, your left. I only have 2 questions left. And I want to go here because your humanitarian work is also Hall of Fame worthy. I think about your You Can Too Foundation, which has developed throughout the years. You are one of the great advocates for children globally. It strikes me that that's not an accident. Some guys come into this role, and I think they go into philanthropy because they feel like they should. It strikes me that that's a center part of who Vlade Divac always has been. Am I right?
I think you're right. I think basketball gave me an opportunity to live the life I wanted to. and my way of giving back to the community all around the world is a privilege for me. I think being in a situation where you can help, it just makes me feel so good and worth it to be in this world.
Okay, my final question. It's going to get a little misty in here because I remember hearing about your enshrinement. I remember hearing that you were in the class. And you're one of those guys for me that really sort of typifies, we're roughly the same vintage, really typifies where I was at a particular moment in my life. I will never be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Can you tell me what that call was like when you see 413 on your caller ID?
Like I said, walking here, I got goosebumps. When I got that call, I was in shock, and the hardest part was not to tell anybody. And I wanted to share with all of my family and friends, but I had to keep it quiet and kind of go through. In that moment, the whole movie, how I started, where I was 10, 15, 20 years ago, it happened to kind of go through my head, and it was just amazing, where I was born in a small city of 15,000 people, and where I end up, it's amazing.
Vlade Divac, basketball is better because you played it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vlade Divac. So now, I am done hogging all the fun. You see to my right, your left, the hard questions. And Vlade, I'm sorry, these are the hard ones. So I have two requests when you come up. You walk right up here. One, you introduce yourself to Mr. Divac. That's your name and where you're from. And then you let me hold the mic while you ask your question. And then following that, you'll all get a chance to get an autograph from Mr. Vlade Divac. So come on right over. How are you? What's your name and where are you from?
My name's Cheyenne, and I'm from New London, Connecticut. What's your question for Mr. Divac? So, when you started basketball, how was it?
Well, I was 12 years old when I started playing basketball. It was fun. That's why I just fell in love with the game.
Thank you, Cheyenne. All right, bring it up. Excellent question. Hey, buddy, what is your name and where are you from?
I'm Elijah, and wait, am I supposed to say the city and the state?
You can give us both.
Oh, okay. I'll just say the state. I'm from Wisconsin, and what was your favorite memory of your career?
My favorite memory would be playing in Olympic Games for my national team, and I was lucky enough to play in 2 Olympics, in '88 and '96, and both times I got medals. So that's something that I cherish through all my career.
That's
Thanks, bud. Great question. Ooh, look at the hustle. I like the hustle. I like it. What's your name? Where are you from?
My name's Gabe, and I'm from Brookline, Massachusetts.
Excellent, Gabe. And what's your question for Mr. Divac?
Who is the most natural leader you played with in your career?
I would say that was Irving Magic Johnson. In my mind, one of the best players ever played this game, and I was lucky enough to be his teammate.
Thanks, buddy. I like the pace of play here. This is great. Nice hustle. How are you?
I'm good.
What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Jackson. I'm from Boston. And my question is, who would you say is your favorite player to watch today?
It's difficult to say, but I would try to be objective. It's De'Aaron Fox. He's a point guard of Sacramento Kings, and he's going to be one of the best players in a few years in the league.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jackson. Yeah, De'Aaron is something.
I try to be objective, right?
All right. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Hi, I'm Zach from New Jersey. And my question is, who is the toughest player you've ever played against?
Well, toughest player, I would say, that's an easy question. It's Shaquille O'Neal, just because of his size, and I felt like, pushing him, it was like pushing the wall. He just doesn't move. So it was very difficult to play against him.
Thank you.
Thank you, bud. People forget how fast Shaq was, too. He was giant and fast.
Hi, I'm Grant. I'm from Indiana, and I was fortunate enough to play alongside Kyle Guy, and you guys just signed him. I'm just wondering what your prediction for him as far as a role with the team this year is going to be like, and after that summer league he just had.
Well, we were lucky to have an opportunity to draft Kyle. I think he's a tremendous shooter. To be NBA player, you have to have at least one terrific skills in your game,
Right.
and one of those is a shooting game. He's unbelievable. He had a great summer league. We signed him on a two-way contract so they can play for our development league team in Stockton, but we'll see him in a lot of NBA games.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Excellent question. All right, let's bring in the closer. Hey, bud.
My name is Bryson, and I'm from Manhattan.
What's your question, Bryson?
My question is, who do you think the best player you've ever played alongside with is?
Best player you ever played alongside?
The best player I played, I mentioned Irving Magic Johnson, but definitely there would be Dražen Petrovic. One of them would also be Chris Webber or Dino Radja.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, one final round of applause for Mr. Vlade
Thank you.
Divac. I can't wait for September. It's going to be great.
Thank you.